good afternoon to everyone who is listening. Good morning, good evening, good night, however we are listening to this. We're recording it on a Thursday afternoon, which just makes a change. Usually I record these in the morning, so this is a nice treat. And I am delighted to welcome somebody brand spanking new to the podcast today. I won't do an introduction because I'll let her do that. Rebecca, how you doing?
Great, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, I am excited to learn more about you and more about what you do. But for people who don't know you at all, who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Rebecca Boyle, and I am an SEO copywriter. I specialise in web copy and tone of voice guides, and I help kind of medium-sized businesses that have been in business for a while and they've been relying on referrals and all that kind of way of getting leads and getting sales. And now they're finding that's not really working anymore. They're a little bit stuck. And that's where I come in, help them get clear on how to move forward. So that's what I do. I have a background in journalism and I kind of done that for a while, then moved to 9 to 5 jobs. And then about 3 years ago, I decided to go it alone and try having my own business. And thankfully, it has worked so far.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, there are many threads to pull there. Now, we'll go down this the avenue of starting your own thing, I guess, because I think everyone has a unique story, a unique tipping point that got them there. So about
Yeah.
3 years ago, you decided to go it alone.
Yep.
What got you there?
There was a couple of things. So the first thing was I was in a 9 to 5 job at the time, and my dad became terminally ill. And so I had to work 9 to 5 and then help take care of him. And that was fine, but it just meant that when I was working, I couldn't obviously stop working. I just got married and bought a house, so there was no chance of taking time off. And I resented that, especially in hindsight. I thought, I would love to be with my dad all the time, and I wasn't able to do it. So I just wanted more flexibility to be able to spend time with family if I needed it.
Mm.
And my mum's obviously by herself now, and it was if she became sick or if anyone else in the family became sick that I had the flexibility to be able to say, okay, I'm going to come out and help you. I don't need to work, or I can work remotely.
Mm.
And that was the first thing that I thought I need to do something about that. And then the second thing was I got a secondment. I was in a public organisation, the local council, so I got a secondment to go and work in another public organisation for 6 months, and it was the NHS. And it was as a communications officer, and it was the first proper marketing job I had, although I always done freelance writing, had a background in journalism. That was the first proper marketing kind of role that I'd had. So when I done it, I really enjoyed it, but I had always thought people in those jobs had some level of skills or knowledge or something that I didn't have, because they were in that job and they must be so much better than me. And when I went into that job, I thought, actually, I can do this. I know this. I know what I'm doing. I'm completely confident about this. And so I thought, well, why not go it alone then? That would be, it's something that I've always wanted to do, is being able to write for a living. And as I say, that flexibility for going alone, having your own business, having that flexibility, and those two things coming together, I just thought, yeah, I'm going to try it.
All right. I think a lot of people will, or that will resonate with a lot of people, the flexibility and putting the really important stuff first. It's like
Yeah.
my business is built around being able to serve family. a lot of my friends' businesses are built around the same thing. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, a lot of business owners I speak to, there would be a lot of them locally and would be in the same position that I am, where you're just running a business by yourself. And they say the same thing. It's to give them the flexibility for families, for, the lifestyle that they want. Or they've had children and the current place that they work just didn't offer them any flexibility with that. And so they decided to go it alone. So I think that's what all business owners, no matter what stage you're at, want, is the flexibility of being your own boss, of being able to make your own decisions, of having control of that.
mm, control's an interesting word.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting thing because, I mean, that what does that control mean to you?
That's a big thing for me because and I would have that in my copy of when I'm kind of promoting my services to people. It's copy is giving you back control of your business. With copy, you can get sales, get leads, you can do that yourself. Whereas you don't have to rely on referrals or people recommending you or any of these things and rely on other people. You're going out there, being proactive and doing it yourself and saying, okay, I need to make so much money or I want to have this certain lifestyle. So I'm going to make that happen. And that is really important because I suppose like when my dad was sick and stuff, you didn't have that. I had to work and that was it. I just couldn't come out. Courage allowance is terrible and it just wouldn't cover. So you're just left with no choice. And I suppose that's why the control is really important so that you can, you know, take back that for yourself and decide how you're going to make your money, who you're going to work with. And, it puts the opportunity, with you. Then you're not kind of waiting for things coming to you.
Yeah.
You're going to get in it and deciding what you want to do.
Yeah. You get out there and you get proactive with it.
Yeah.
But on your terms.
Yeah. And that's what I say to a lot of business owners like myself, because a lot of them will be in that feast or famine cycle.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many of them. I've spoken to them recently and stuff where they're like, I haven't got any plans at the minute. And I say to them, since I started my business, I haven't made a lot of money, but it's been steady. And that's because of always doing something. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be sending one email today. It could be reaching out to, a couple of people networking. It could be whatever it is to kind of promote your business. And if you do small things and on a regular basis, it leads up to those results. And sometimes when you're not seeing that, it can be very frustrating because you're sitting here, you're doing everything, but the money's not quite coming in yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, is this working? Is anybody listening to me? Because I'm just doing all this stuff and posting on social networks and doing all this stuff. And I just feel like nothing's really happening. But it does work. If you're doing those small things, you will eventually get people coming to you. So that's really important.
To have the space and the time to do the small things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting thing that you mentioned before about getting into a job, thinking that everyone else is more skilled than you, and and you actually get there and go, you know what, I got this.
Yeah.
Like that isn't a very common story for a lot of people. They sometimes, I've had it in the past where I've taken a job and gone, oh, I'm way out of my depth.
Yeah.
From that point of, I really know what I'm doing, so I'm going to go and do it myself. How did that feeling carry through for you?
I mean, it was good, but then it wasn't the end of the process because since then, yes, I did go it alone after that and stuff, but then I would have continued to do, and I did have a background in journalism and stuff as well. So, I mean, it wasn't like I was starting from scratch. I did have stuff in the beginning and I had done marketing certifications and all this kind of thing. But it wasn't the end of that process, because when I did go it alone, I did do other training and
Okay.
programs. I done my diploma in copywriting with the Blackford Centre, um, which you don't have to do to be a copywriter. There's no qualification for it, but I thought it would be good to kind of lay the foundations of, the industry and exactly what, I could expect to to have as a job, what I would be doing. And so I've done so many training courses and everything since then, and I still go on training courses. And every time I done a training course, I would say, okay, I know this stuff, I kind of have paid for this, and I'm not really coming away with a lot of stuff. I know this, or I know most of it. And my husband would say, well, why are you doing these courses? I mean, if you know it, just go and do it. But it took a while to kind of feel that I was as good as these people, even though I was confident and went it alone. I still thought, well, I'm only starting copywriting, so now the people that are senior copywriters who have been doing this for years, who are experienced, they're the ones now who are better than me, and they're the ones that must know something I don't. And so the process, I suppose, kind of started again,
Mm.
of again realizing that actually you could do this stuff. A lot of the stuff that they are telling you, a lot of stuff that they're doing, actually I'm already doing. So not to say that I know everything and that there wasn't stuff that I did learn, but I knew a lot of it,
Mm.
and it was an ongoing process to kind of get to the stage where I'm at now, where I'm confident enough to say, yes, I can charge a certain amount of money, I can do this, that, or the other, I can reach out to big businesses, because I am confident that what I'm providing is as good as anybody else.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's exactly it. The thing that you are providing is as good as anyone else.
yeah,
And I had a half percolated question there, but around you mentioned like senior copyright, people who've been doing it for ages, right?
yeah.
How can one copywriter's words be better than another?
I suppose in a way maybe they can't, but I suppose it's just the experience and that kind of thing of a senior copywriter that has um maybe got they've just done it so many times that they know more what works, really. I suppose that's it. It's not necessarily that the words are better, it's that they've just the experience to know more when it's going to work, or for certain industries maybe, or for certain, for a web page, or for a sales page, or for a brochure. It's just that experience of knowing what works, I suppose.
Mm.
And there are things obviously you can only get from experience. So if you are starting out, your copywriting could be amazing, but you need to show those results, and you need to show that kind of thing, and you need to get that experience to know it works.
I get that. I feel that.
Yeah.
It feels like a really odd, almost like a clash of ideals, doesn't it? It was like you come into something and you're very new, but your skills are good.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've been doing it for ages, yeah, your skills are still good,
Yeah.
but you don't have to prove yourself because, as you say, you know what works in certain ways, and you can maybe just get to the result faster.
Yeah. I think even when you've been there, done it, in marketing, things change so much. I
Yeah.
mean, people don't change necessarily. The things that motivate us, still work. We don't change. We're not any different. You're still appealing to people and what they want and their goals and dreams and all this kind of thing. So that doesn't changes, but the way we get that message across changes. Um, for example, we get so many emails and stuff now. It became the go-to way, instead of the more traditional methods and brochures and print publications. It became, email and all this kind of thing.
Mm.
And now I've actually seen a little bit of a change towards more traditional again. because it seems more personal. Email is still great,
Yeah.
but like I would send clients a postcard, or on different occasions, or things like that that are seeming seemingly more personal, because you don't get a lot of them anymore. You don't really get letters to the post unless it's bills. You don't get any of those things
Yeah.
anymore. So the fact that someone's taken the time to do that, and it's different, so it'll stick in your mind that someone's posted a letter instead of having 1,000 emails in your inbox. So there has been a slight change towards that more traditional, I feel, that people kind of want that more personalized approach. And as I say, things have changed in the sense that people want more personalized stuff. They want more stories, they want to resonate more with you. Whereas back in the day, it was very salesy. It was buy this product, and all that kind of in your face kind of marketing. Whereas now it's very different.
Mm.
People don't like that. They're very aware of people selling to them, even if you're doing it in a way that's not in their face. Sometimes, because they know you're only doing this to sell them something,
Switch off.
it'll turn them
Yeah.
off. So it has to be done in a way that's, as people say, authentic. I hate that word,
Same.
but
Same. It makes my. It's just like ooh.
yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah.
But I know what people mean when they're using it. I suppose you have to be doing it because you actually care for the right reasons. You actually care about your customers and that kind of thing. That's really what it means. It doesn't mean you're just a business and you say everybody has numbers and you know that kind of thing. But as a copywriter, things change, and yes, you've experience, but you still have to learn. It's an
Mm.
ongoing thing that it just never stops.
Yes. I always come to a point with questions where I just go, yes, that's right. That's an interesting thing. Like, I wonder then if, like, we think about this, certain people being able to charge more or being better or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
do you, how do you think then, mate, that people in your space can differentiate themselves other than just being better than someone else?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different ways. You can do it because you specialize in certain areas. So you can be a healthcare copywriter or a financial copywriter, or you can specialize in web copy, that kind of thing, like myself. So there's ways to set yourself apart from the services you offer or to the industries you offer. But a lot of people would use that as their unique selling point. A lot of businesses come to me and they say, "This is my unique selling point," and I say, "Well, it's actually not,"
Yeah.
because they're saying, "Oh, I appeal to a certain industry," and I'm like, "Well, other people can appeal to a certain, the same industry, so that's not unique." It's what's about you as a business, and it normally, especially for smaller brands, it's the founder's personality, especially for solopreneur business. um, it's that person, because the clients and customers will be working with that person directly, and they have to get on with them. They have to like them. They have to feel, that they trust that person, and all of these kinds of things to want to purchase with them. And so, a lot of the smaller businesses, it is the founder's personality that will attract those people and that makes them different. And for bigger businesses, I specialize in tone of voice, which is basically the same thing for bigger businesses. And that's creating a personality for that brand. Like Virgin, where it's like the kind of cheeky chappy kind of vibe. It really sums up like Richard Branson, and they have kind of innuendo type adverts and that kind of thing. And it's about setting yourself out. Virgin is very different from other companies that are selling the same thing. They're not necessarily the best, they're not necessarily the cheapest or whatever else, but people are loyal to them because they like that personality. And so for bigger brands, it's important to create that and create something that people like and that makes them come back to you, even if you make mistakes.
Feel that. I feel that. I think everyone who's in business in the same spaces that you are, that I am, that everyone listening probably is, we have to create that for ourselves, don't we?
Yeah. And it's hard because I mean, I specialize in this, but when I came to do my own like tone of
Yeah.
voice and think about, what's so unique about my personality, it was terrible. I was asking friends, family, I was like, what is unique about me? Like I don't really know, what attracts people to me. And I could tell you for other people, and I do it for other businesses and solopreneurs. But when you're, you know, trying to look outside in towards yourself, it can be very daunting, and you don't really know what the appeal is. And if that's the case, it's always good to go to your testimonials and get feedback from people that have worked with you and what they say, and
100%.
find out what was it that attracted them to you, and that will give you an indication of what is special about what you're offering, because you often don't see it yourself.
100% that. 100%.
Definitely.
You can't, when you're in the forest, you can't see
Yeah.
the individual trees. You can't see the special bits.
No. And sometimes it can be quite surprising because I'm a writer, and so I like being kind of behind the scenes, and I have done um directing and producing of short videos and that kind of stuff, and had to act in front of them, and I hate being in front of the camera. I like being behind the scenes. And my husband said to me, "You are great at talking." See, once, because he would hear me sometimes on Zoom calls and that kind of thing. And he says, "You're great at talking. Once you talk to people, like, you really know what you're talking about, and they get really invested in it, and it's clear that you know what you're doing." And that was something that I don't think I ever would have realized myself.
Mm.
That's what people were attracted to, that I could talk, and people would say, "You're easy to talk to," and this kind of thing, and I would have never said that about myself.
Yeah. I I feel that deeply. I remember a time back when I had a job, and I was a leader of design, and I was called into a meeting to present something to some random stakeholder, and
Yeah.
the CEO of the company pulled me aside after. She goes, can I have a chat? And you know what that does to you? It just makes you,
Yeah.
shakes your core. But he just says to me that you are naturally gifted at that thing. And I would have
Yeah.
never seen it. Never.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go, oh yeah, I can bring people on side and get them into a space. You wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
I have a really daft question about copywriting. Okay, and this is one of those things.
Thank
This is one of
God.
those things, right? That I wonder, and I carry it with me when I do design work. And it's all about your personal fingerprint. So
Uh-huh.
you are a writer with your own style, your own voice,
Hmm.
but you have to represent the voice of the client.
Yeah.
This feels like mystery to me.
Yeah.
How does that work? How do you create the separation between you and your work when you don't
Yeah.
want to be seen in your work?
Yeah. And when you first start out, that was something that I kind of had to get used to as
Mm,
well, because I know I'm quite direct, quite straight talking, and so that would be my style. And obviously, with a journalism background, it would be getting to the point. And obviously, that's what journalism or copywriting is there to do. It's to get to the point, and try to convince people using these psychological techniques to convince people that, or persuade them that you're the right person for them, it's the right product for them, whatever. And that's why I started specializing in tone of voice, because there's a way to analyze a company's voice using different kind of software and by your own kind of experience and knowledge. And it's about creating that and then replicating it yourself.
Mm.
And sometimes it does feel like going against the grain because it's maybe not something that you would ever say personally, but it is it's a challenge, but it's satisfying when you come up with a way to speak like someone else. And it is by, small things like, are they using more conversational language? What's their kind of average word count, sentence length? Do they use, what kind of grammar do they use? Do they use Oxford commas, exclamation marks? Do they, speak in slang? Do they use emojis? All these things that you can group together, figure out how their voice is, and then replicate it.
Mm.
So I think and a lot of copywriters, I think, would still struggle with that. And that's why tone of voice is so handy.
Yeah.
It's so convenient to have because it helps you have a framework to speak like any business.
Feels like the ultimate method acting.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Like an actor learning an accent, finding new
Yeah,
dialect. It feels quite performative in a way.
yeah. Um, and it is interesting because sometimes a business won't necessarily have that specific tone of voice. It will be lots of different writers and different things, and so it's trying to create something that they want to use as a brand personality and have it as a framework so that everyone speaks the same in the business.
Mm.
So that everyone's saying the same things and has the same kind of ethos and are working towards the same goals and all that kind of thing. So it is really interesting, and it's really great when you can replicate that and send it off and it blends in with the rest of their stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, build the consistency and
Yeah,
arm other people with the right tools to do the thing.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
I've written the word journalism down on my notepad really big because I want to ask you about that. Um, how come not journalism now? That's a terrible question. How come not
No,
journalism?
that's
How
the
come not journalism now? But like, what drew you towards marketing and then copywriting rather than pursuing the harder path of journalism?
yeah. Um well, when I was very young, I loved writing fiction. I wrote short stories all the time, and I really loved that. Until I kind of got to secondary school and realised that probably wasn't going to make me any money. um, so I had to think, well, how can I do something with writing for a living? And so journalism is really the the only thing that you know about really is another writing profession. If you're not going to be an author, it's really the only other thing that you're aware of. And so I thought, okay, I'll try journalism. Um, and when I started writing journalism and doing my degree and everything like that, it was interesting, but I found it was very formulaic. So there's a particular way to write it. You're starting with the main point, and then you're, you know, diving in a little bit more, and a little bit more, and getting all the facts in and things. And it was kind of the same thing all the time. There wasn't really any way for you to be creative or anything like that, so it was quite limited in that sense. And also, I couldn't really make money from journalism either
No.
because I'm in Northern Ireland, so it's a small place and we don't pay people a lot of money here. So, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. And when I graduated, it was 2008 and it was the recession, and they were getting rid of loads of experienced journalism professionals. And so I thought, well, okay, maybe there's an opportunity for me because I'm cheaper, because I'm new, maybe someone will want me. But that basically meant that we're working for free a lot of the time. People, you would go in as, working for free, thinking that maybe it would become something else. But then they just got rid of you and got someone else to work for free. And I saw that so much. And sometimes it was you could go to events and they would pay for the event, but they're not going to pay you a wage, you know. And I was doing because my degree was journalism with photo imaging, so I took the photos and done the
Okay.
copy, and which I should have got more money for, and it was still giving all this away mainly free or minimum wage.
Mm.
And I thought, well, I can't continue doing this. I done it for about a year after I graduated, and I thought, well, I can't continue with this.
No.
Um, so it was a mix between really not a lot of options in that field, and also I I kind of was getting bored of it because it was so limited in the way that you could write.
Mm. That's. I never considered journalism as like a non-creative pursuit, but the way that you describe it now is kind of like, yeah, I can see that. And
Yeah,
again, you kind of have to method act your way into your publication's
yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
Do you feel that like maybe in that space you would have had to be more cautious in how you approach writing?
Yeah, because as part of journalism, you study media law, so you have to obviously be very careful about what you're saying. And I loved law. I thought it was fascinating. The kind of difference between you know things you could say, things you couldn't, things you could do. It really was fascinating, but yeah, you have to be more careful. And I think journalism has got to a point where it's not really journalism anymore. There's not a lot of people that can go out and really investigate things.
Mm.
There still are some platforms that do that, but because, there's deadlines and, you have to get the story done and that's it. You don't really have the luxury of investigating one particular story for any length of time, unless you're maybe in very particular publications. But the majority of journalism, it's just not really journalism anymore. Um, you're told this is a story, go and write that. A lot of it is taken from press releases that have been sent to you and just they've basically just copy and pasted it into a newspaper or publication.
Mm.
A lot of stuff I've seen is just copy and pasted from the PR person. So there's no kind of quality regulation anymore, I don't think,
Yeah.
in journalism. So again, that kind of makes it even more limiting because you don't have the freedom to go out and do any investigations or get to the root of why things are happening. You've just to get the story out, get it out in the publication, and that's it.
Yeah. Not everyone's going to be out there writing the editorials and, you know,
Exactly.
uh, thinking about that with the kind of just the everyone can be a writer angle to this. What do you
Yeah.
think of platforms like Medium and Substack and all that kind of stuff? 'Cause, I mean, I love Substack in terms of
Yeah.
just being able to absorb other people's ideas.
Yeah.
What do you think about all those kind of avenues for people to express themselves with words?
I think it's great that you have that. I mean, writing can be, it doesn't have to be something that makes you money. I mean, it can be a way, like you said, to express yourself, to write fan fiction, to, any of these things, to just write blogs about whatever you want to write about. That's great that people have that. Um, I think to be a writer, I wouldn't necessarily say that everyone can be a writer. Um, certainly for a copywriter, because I have heard a lot of people in this industry say, "Oh, anyone can do this," and I think, well, I don't think they can. um, I don't like kind of putting people down, but I don't think everyone can be a writer. I just don't think some people, it's for them. Um, you can certainly learn, techniques, and you can definitely get better.
Mm.
There's no question about that. With practice and all that kind of thing, you can definitely get better at it. But I would say it's definitely not everyone can write. Not for money anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can write a blog, you can write fan fiction, you can certainly put it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect, because someone will read it, I'm sure, just, and enjoy it, and that's great. And even if no one does, you've been able to express yourself and be creative, and that's great. But as a career, I definitely don't think anybody can do it.
No, it's hard.
Yeah,
Like, and this is speaking as somebody who loves writing.
yeah,
Writing a 500-word blog which is actually good and
yeah,
consistent and gets to the point and delivers. That's hard
yeah,
work to do that time and time and time and time again.
yeah. And it's not just the writing, it's, especially if you're freelance like me, it's running a business as
Mm-hmm.
well, because a lot of people also say, oh, you can do it, you can run your own business, you can be a copywriter, and it's not that simple.
No.
you know. Just setting up a business isn't that easy, even if it is, no expenses, just sitting at your desk and writing. There's a lot to it that's not writing.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't think it's for everyone. Um, yeah, it's hard enough, but and with AI as well, um, AI can do the job of people that maybe aren't as good at writing, and so you have to be even better again at the minute because a computer can now do your job. So you
Mm.
have to be good enough to, you know, for people to see the value of actually getting a copywriter and not using AI.
Yeah. I think those tools, like, you can tell. I bet if I put up two pieces of copy in front of you, you'd know
Yeah,
straight away which one a computer spat out. Like, you
yeah.
have
And
to.
I think most people do, and I mean they're amazing tools, and they really can do a lot, and I
Mm.
think they're going to get even better and better. And maybe one day in the not too distant future I will be out of a job because an AI can do it as good as me. But at the minute they're only useful for me. It's getting ideas off, inspiring you off, maybe bouncing ideas back and forth, that kind of thing, and using it as a tool like you would kind of anything else in your
Mm.
business. And a lot of people make the mistake of putting stuff in and just copy and pasting it. They don't edit it, they don't add their own voice to it, and that's where a lot of people go wrong. Yes, if you're on a budget, you're a small business owner and you need content, and that's the only way you can afford it, then by all means, yeah, do that, but edit it. Please edit it because it will sound like a computer, you know.
Yes. Yes, it will. I fully agree. It does just come out as a bunch of crap.
Yeah. And it's, again, when I talk about tone of voice, there's no personality there, you know. And yes, you can kind of train it in your tone of voice and, what you would say. But again, it takes someone with a little bit of knowledge to train it to do that.
Mm.
And, there will still be editing and that kind of thing. So it's definitely not at the stage where you can copy and paste it.
No, definitely not. And I love that people like you are saying that because it just
Yeah.
puts the people back into the heart of everything that's being done in our
Yeah.
industries. It's people talking to people to
Yeah.
buy things from people and deliver them in a service which is person to person.
Yeah.
And that's it at the end of the day. It's people.
Yeah. And that's what people would say to me, aren't you worried, that AI is going to take your job? And I say no, because people want to deal with people. You know, I could, get an AI to do certain tasks for me, but I'd rather deal with, I'd rather hire a VA and get them to do it and talk with them and have someone that understands my business and someone that I can actually speak to, and will take the time away from doing it. Because if it's an AI doing it, I'm still going to have to do stuff, to get the results for that. So people still want to work with people, and they want to feel they can trust you and they can talk to you. And that is something that an AI, you know, although there is a lot of cool voice stuff that they're doing at the minute where
Mm.
it is getting better and better at being like a real person, but certainly at the minute it just doesn't replicate that human to human interaction, which I think people generally want, and why there is a bit of a move towards more traditional mediums, because people want that personalized approach.
Absolutely. I think if you can get into somebody's inbox, if they can gift you with their email address,
Yeah,
and you can talk to them in that way, in a way which at least keeps them opening your email,
yeah,
you're on a good path.
yeah,
But it does come from people like you, from the heart,
yeah,
from the mind, and then applying those skills in the right way.
yeah, definitely.
We've talked a lot about tone of voice because I get an inclination that's your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said it was, but I get it now. Um, what about your voice? So you mentioned before that you loved writing since you were young, and you
Yeah.
know we know that as we get older and we develop our creativity into a business, it kind of goes to the sideline a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you cultivate creative Rebecca?
I suppose I don't often do that anymore. And, I'd thought about that recently actually about, because I'd had a few ideas for stories and stuff, and I still keep up to date with like short story competitions and that kind of thing. And I thought, I should really do that, again, because that kind of writing also influences, your copywriting too. There are lots of things in fiction writing that can be taken for copywriting. So it all impacts upon each other. But I suppose I really am so focused on creating a business that I don't really get a lot of that. I do some other creative things, like I started to sew and you know that kind
Yes.
of thing. So there are other creative outlets, but I suppose when it comes to writing, there really isn't a lot of time for that anymore, unfortunately.
Mm. I think that's okay.
Yeah,
I think as you say, you found other avenues to flex that part of what you do, and
yeah,
that's important.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good to have other things outside of your business, because it can be so hard to switch off, that having something like that, because with sewing you're having to concentrate, or it's quite repetitive, so you're kind of zoning out. So for that kind of thing, it's really important to have things like that to help you stop thinking about your business, or playing video games, like I'll do that too. And it'll take your mind off of, oh, I could do that, or oh, I should speak to this person, or
Mm.
because your mind just constantly going with ideas about what you could be doing.
That's incredibly resonant. On the video game front, especially being able
Yeah,
to do something which feels productive, but it's not fueling the ideas bucket.
yeah,
Because I saw something from a content creator to put my teeth back in. I saw something from a content creator the other week who actually said they just kind of stopped reading.
oh yeah, yeah. I've seen a few people say that. Yeah,
They've stopped reading so many. I was of that mind. I used to read oodles of books, but
yeah,
since I've actually dialed down the number of books that I take in, it's opened my mind up.
yeah,
And because you're not constantly trying to fuel the fire of
yeah.
in
uh,
your way.
yeah. And I had that too, where I was going through a phase where it was all books on copywriting or sales
Yeah.
or being a boss, or all these, all very informative books. And I got to a stage where I'm like, my brain feels like it's going to explode, because all I do every day is, run a business, read about it, listen to podcasts about it. And I just thought, actually, I need to get back to reading fiction.
Mm.
And even just making that change, you know, it made a difference of I'm actually having a bit of downtime where I'm not thinking about anything to do with business. So even making the switch to, fiction books over, like I love history too, so and they're fascinating, but again, they're non-fiction, so it kind of, you need something that is easier to absorb, I think, to kind of not to have you thinking so hard, that's just
Mm.
easy to read, you can relax, you're not having to take this information in. So I think even a shift like that can definitely help too.
Excellent. Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. Is it because it's good to enjoy a story?
Yeah,
Like one of my friends said to me, like that she used to beat herself up about the way she consumed stories. So it was like she had to read books, and then we kind of got to the point of saying, well, actually, if we watch a series on Netflix, or we
yeah,
watch a movie, or we listen to a narrative podcast, or we read a fiction book, you're still
yeah,
consuming a story
yeah,
that keeps your creative bits happy, but doesn't have you reading a business
yeah,
book every 5 minutes.
yeah. And all of those things, as you say, like films and all that thing, they can inform your writing and
Mm,
can, things that are completely different from, an industry that you work in, can inform the industry that you specialize in. So it's good to change things up and not always focus on, particular things. Um, and yeah, I think not give yourself such a hard time about, you know, doing all these things because I think, it's hard enough running a business and then people are saying, oh, get up at 5 a.m. and do yoga and do all this stuff and, go away on holidays. And I'm like, I am not doing any of that stuff.
no.
I go to the gym twice a week and that is, and take my dogs a walk. And that is kind of everything else I do during the week. I just don't have time for much else.
No. We don't, do we? It's
No, it's like I'm not doing all those things. Otherwise, I will just be absolutely burnt out. My business will, you know, not be there because I can't function.
mm,
So it's important to, be a bit easier on yourself because, as someone said before, if your health goes, everything else goes
yeah,
because you can't run your business, you can't support other people, you can't support clients. If you're not well, then everything else falls apart.
absolutely. You've got to put on your own oxygen mask first, as they say.
Yeah.
Amazing. That feels like a very pertinent point on which to round out this conversation. For people who want to come and work with you, because they should,
Hmm.
obviously, they need copywriting in their business. For those folks or the people who just want to get to know you a bit better, how can they do that? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Rebecca Boyle, and you can go to my website as well, which is rebeccaboylecopywriting.com. And I also do have an email list that they can get a free homepage checklist. So if you want to sign up, you can always unsubscribe if you think this is useless. But you can at least get the free PDF that me and my amazing graphic designer Jenny created. And it takes you through how to write your own web copy and some of the SEO basics that you need to know. And it has a little checklist and a little template that you can follow as well to make it as easy as possible. So you can do that. And as I say, you can sign up for that and then leave if you really want. Hopefully you don't, but
Well, there we go. Constantly giving value.
yeah, well, yeah, I love teaching. I love if you've that knowledge. I feel like I try and help other people who are small business owners like myself.
Amazing. Well, look, Rebecca, thank you so much for hanging out, for sharing some stories, and for reminding us all that we got to stop now and again.
Yes, definitely.
Amazing.